poet's tragedy, the country of Morhiram.
Welcome, traveler. I see you out there in the darkness. Come on in. The fire's warm, and I've got a stew ready. Yes, don't worry. I'm not here to harm you in any way. I'm not a mugger. I'm a storyteller. I love to spread good stories all across the world. If you wouldn't mind, bend your ear a little bit, for I've got a tale that I think you'd love to hear. Now, it all starts in the country of Morhiram. This peaceful nation does not know any war. Bountiful farms, booming businesses, and large-scale cities scatter the nation. The capital city of Bolon is famous worldwide, and you can always find people from all over the world there. Focusing on trading goods and building foreign relations, they are a loved country overall. Bolon has an impressive air dock atop its tallest towers that brings in constant travel and new business. This, sadly, is where our tale of despair begins. Our heroes of the tale, led by fate, happen to be in the small offshoot of the main market in Bolon. It was there where Corporal Yalir of the Morhiram Guides was meeting his old mentor. He was there, so perhaps he can recall the events a bit more clearly than myself.
I was so happy to see my old mentor again. He taught me everything I knew when I had started, and it's been a couple years now, and I just earned a promotion. So I called him here to Bolon to meet with me because I want him to be present at my promotional ceremony. It's not every day when they promote somebody to sergeant in the guides. He happily agreed and I was ecstatic. And just then, the entire world turned upside down. The buildings and towers were collapsing around us and there were tremors in the ground. And the airships came falling out of the sky and crashing everywhere around us. There was fire, screams, and blood everywhere. There was children's cries coming from the wreckage, calling out to their dead parents. It took all of my resolve to not puke at the sight of them splattered across the ground. I buckled up and began saving as many of the children as I could. My mentor, with the help of some other strangers on the other side of the wreckage, were saving people over there. We were separated, but we both knew what we had to do. We were trying to get to an outpost outside of Bolon. I led my group away and he led his. After some time traversing the streets, it seemed like there was music echoing through them. And every time it played, it seemed as if buildings started to collapse then, or that's when the tremors occurred, but I didn't think anything of it at the time. And then that's when crazy went to crazier. There were ground forces all of a sudden, and they started slaying the civilians all around me. They were pantsless, and they were screaming incoherent phrases like, "You shall know his name! You shall know his name!" That cursed phrase is still burned into my ears. I drew my sword and ran to defend those I swore to protect. I cut down as many as I could, and I fought for what seemed like hours, and I was losing stamina fast. Just as I had looked over, I saw my mentor with his group rounding the corner onto the street I was on. I was filled with relief. Finally, reinforcements. But it was at that moment when I received a fatal blow to my back. I dropped to the ground, lying next to the other fallen. I tried to call out, but my voice was weak and I couldn't utter any words. I witnessed my mentor and his friends cut down the rest of the villains around me, and just as I thought I was done, they used their only potion of healing to save my life. I can never return that favor to them. We banded together and got the survivors outside of Bolon into the outpost. We met up with many other guides and many other survivors there. Overcrowded and disorganized, myself and the other guides tried to get some order going. All of the captains in the city were either killed in action, missing in action, and the ones that we knew about, they were in our makeshift infirmary, deathly wounded. So the responsibility of everything fell on my shoulders. I spent many nights in that camp, having breakdowns in my chambers away from everybody else. I couldn't let them see how weak I was. I was not ready for that type of role, but I had to do what had to be done. And by some miracle, the king had made it to the outpost. I saw it best to evacuate him immediately to the great city of Corinthia that sits on the northern shores of Morhiram. I reinstated my mentor to the guides and his ragtag group. I assigned them and two of my finest guides to take the king to Corinthia. Private First Class Ito and Private First Class Keldinger. Two of my closest friends in the guides. I saw them out and I prayed to whatever gods would listen to me that day. I haven't seen them since.
Now, wasn't that just riveting? Thank you, Sergeant Julier. It was very good, although you did leave out some minor details, but it's not your profession now, is it? Now, this is where the tale becomes something of a horror story. For their trail north on the road to Corinthia was filled with nothing but sadness and despair. Now, there was a glimpse of happiness for them at some point in there, but that light was quickly snuffed out. Those poor, poor souls. I trust Keldinger will be able to reiterate this perfectly for you. Take it away, my boy.